Hi, I'm Tatum. I never thought my life would turn into a made-for-TV drama, but here we are. For the last 6 years, I've been living with my dad, my stepmom Diane, and her daughter Melanie after my parents' divorce. Most days were uneventful until senior prom rolled around. Tatum, have you decided what you're wearing to prom? Dad asked over breakfast, his newspaper hiding half his face. I was thinking about Mom's blue dress, I replied, stirring my cereal. She said I could borrow it. Diane's spoon clattered against her bowl. Your mother's dress, but we already discussed getting you something new. You discussed. I just nodded. I shrugged, avoiding eye contact. Mom's dress is vintage and beautiful. It's outdated, Diane snapped. What will people think if you show up in some hand-me-down? Dad lowered his newspaper. If Tatum wants to wear Claire's dress, I don't see the problem. Of course you don't, Diane muttered, shooting him a look that could curdle milk. Later that week, I picked up Mom's dress. The shimmering sapphire fabric felt like holding a piece of her close. I hung it carefully in my closet, smiling at how perfect it would be. 2 days before prom, I came home from school to find Melanie in my room, holding the dress against herself in my mirror. What are you doing? I demanded, dropping my backpack. Melanie jumped. Oh, I was just looking. It's really pretty. It's also not yours, I said, taking the dress from her hands. Please ask next time. Sorry, geez. She rolled her eyes. It's just a dress. Mom said I should try it on since we're the same size now. My stomach tightened. Diane told you to try on my prom dress? Well, yeah. Melanie twirled her hair around her finger. She thought maybe we could share. Jason's taking me to dinner at Rosario's Friday, and it would be perfect. Jason? Your boyfriend? I hung the dress back in my closet. No way. This is my mom's dress for my prom. It's special to me. God, you're so selfish, Melanie huffed. It's just sitting there most of the time anyway. That night at dinner, Diane broached the subject again. Melanie mentioned the dress situation. I think sharing would be a wonderful gesture, Tatum. It's not my dress to share, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. It's Mom's, and she lent it to me specifically for prom. Your mother isn't here, is she? Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure she wouldn't mind Melanie borrowing it for one evening. Dad cleared his throat. If Claire lent it to Tatum for a specific occasion... Robert, please, Diane interrupted. We're teaching the girls about sisterhood and sharing. Isn't that more important than being possessive over fabric? It's not about the fabric, I insisted. It's about what it represents. Which is what exactly? Diane challenged. Your mother abandoning this family for her new life in Chicago? That's enough, Dad said sharply. The next day, I returned from school to find my closet door open and the dress gone. Panic surged through me as I rushed downstairs to find Diane ironing the blue dress. What are you doing with my dress? I demanded. Just pressing it for Melanie's dinner tonight, she replied casually. That's not happening, I said, reaching for the dress. Mom lent it to me, not Melanie. Diane pulled it away. Don't be difficult, Tatum. It's one night. No, I grabbed the dress. You didn't ask me or Mom. You can't just take it. What happened next happened so fast. As I pulled the dress, Diane's hand flew across my face with a sharp crack. The sting brought immediate tears to my eyes, and we both froze in shocked silence. What the hell is going on? Dad appeared in the doorway, his face darkening when he saw me holding my cheek. She hit me, I whispered, still stunned. Over Mom's dress. Diane? Dad's voice was dangerously quiet. She was being hysterical, Diane stammered. I barely touched her. That's when my phone buzzed. It was Melanie's boyfriend, Jason. Got your message. Dinner's off. Tell Mel I'm sorry. I hadn't sent any message to Jason. I never texted you, I said into the phone, confused. Well, somebody using your name did, Jason replied, sounding annoyed. Said you were sick of covering for Mel and that I should know she's been seeing Eric behind my back. My eyes widened as I looked at Diane, who was suddenly very interested in folding the dress. Jason, I swear I didn't send that, I said. Someone must have taken my phone. Dad took the dress from Diane's hands. Who had access to Tatum's phone today? Diane crossed her arms. How should I know? These girls leave their devices everywhere. Only one person wanted this dress badly enough to create a diversion, I said, the pieces clicking together. Melanie must have sent that text. That's ridiculous, Diane snapped. My daughter wouldn't. Call her, Dad interrupted. Now. 20 minutes later, Melanie stormed through the front door. Thanks a lot. Tatum, Jason broke up with me because of your stupid text. I didn't send it, I said firmly, but I think you did, using my phone. That's crazy, Melanie's voice pitched higher. Why would I sabotage my own relationship? To create chaos so you could take my dress while everyone was distracted, I suggested. Pretty elaborate for just a dress, don't you think? Is that true, Mel? Dad asked quietly. Melanie's eyes darted between us. You always take her side. Ever since she moved in, it's been poor Tatum this and sweet Tatum that. What about me? This isn't about sides, Dad said. This is about respect and boundaries. And assault, I added, my cheek still stinging. Diane hit me. It was a reflex, Diane protested. She was pulling the dress. I'd like to talk to Officer Reynolds about whether hitting a minor counts as a reflex, I said, pulling out my phone. You're calling the police? Diane paled. Over a little tap? Dad held up his hand. Tatum, please. Let's discuss this rationally. Dad, your wife hit me, I said, tears welling up again. What's there to discuss? I called my friend Leah, whose mother was a police officer. Within an hour, I was sitting in their living room, explaining what happened while Officer Reynolds took notes. Has this happened before? She asked gently. No, I admitted. But there's been tension. Physical violence is never acceptable, Officer Reynolds said firmly. Even a single incident is reportable. Later, Leah brought me tea. I can't believe Diane hit you. And over a dress? It's not just a dress, I sighed. It's one of the few things I have that connects me to Mom since she moved. What are you going to do? Leah asked, sitting beside me. I don't know yet, I replied, clutching my mug. But I'm not letting this slide. The next morning, I met with Mrs. Peterson, our school counselor. I'd known her since freshman year, and she'd always been straight with me. Hitting is never okay, Tatum, she said after hearing my story. Even if it was just once, as they might claim. I don't want to destroy my family, I confessed. But I also can't pretend this didn't happen. It's not your job to preserve a family at your expense, Mrs. Peterson replied firmly. What does your mom say? I haven't told her yet, I admitted. She'll fly back immediately, and that will make everything worse. Sometimes worse is necessary before things can get better, Mrs. Peterson observed. Have you considered that Melanie might need help too? This behavior suggests deeper issues. I thought about Melanie's boyfriend, Jason, who, as it turned out, had dated me first 3 years ago. The same Jason who'd later told mutual friends I was his biggest regret. There's more to the story, I said slowly, and I think it's time everyone heard it. That afternoon, I asked Dad to meet me at a coffee shop near his office. Neutral territory seemed important for what I needed to say. I've been thinking about yesterday, Dad began as he stirred his coffee. Diane is very sorry about what happened. She lost her temper. This isn't just about yesterday, I replied, opening my notebook. Did you know that Jason, Melanie's boyfriend, used to date me? Dad frowned. The same Jason? No, I didn't. We went out for a few months when I first moved in with you. He broke it off suddenly, then started dating Melanie 2 weeks later, I explained. And lately he's been telling people I'm his biggest regret. That's terrible, Dad said, looking genuinely upset. But teenagers say cruel things. Dad, please listen, I interrupted. This pattern started when Diane and Melanie moved in. Things disappear from my room. Rumors start at school. And now, physical violence. Tatum, I know yesterday was inexcusable, but calling it violence is accurate, I finished firmly. And Officer Reynolds agrees. Dad paled. You really spoke to the police? I did, and I've documented everything. I pushed my notebook toward him. Dates, incidents, witnesses, For 3 years. As Dad flipped through the pages, his expression darkened. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. You always said I needed to try harder with Diane and Melanie. I never thought. Dad trailed off, rubbing his face. What do you want to do? I want to live somewhere I'm safe, I said simply. And I want Diane to face consequences for hitting me. You're asking me to choose between my wife and my daughter. No, I corrected him. I'm asking you to choose between enabling abuse and protecting your child. That evening, Dad called a family meeting. Diane sat stiffly on the couch while Melanie slouched beside her. Tatum has brought some serious concerns to my attention, Dad began. And after reviewing her documentation, I believe her. Documentation? Diane scoffed. Of what exactly? 3 years of systematic bullying, theft, and now physical assault? I replied calmly. That's ridiculous, Melanie snorted. She's always been jealous of me. Let's address the dress incident first, Dad interrupted. Diane, you admit you struck Tatum? Diane shifted uncomfortably. I reacted poorly. I've apologized. Actually, you haven't, I pointed out. Fine. I'm sorry I slapped you. Happy? Diane snapped. Not particularly, I replied, because you're only sorry you got caught. How dare you? Diane stood up. After everything I've done for you. Like what? I challenged. Turning my boyfriend against me? Encouraging Melanie to take my things? Making Dad think I'm the problem? That's enough, Dad said firmly. Diane, I've reviewed Tatum's evidence. Text messages, missing items found in Melanie's room, witnesses who heard you both speaking badly about Tatum. Melanie's face crumpled. Dad, you can't believe. I saw the messages on your phone, Dad cut in. The ones coordinating with Jason about how to handle Tatum. And yes, I checked while you were asleep because I needed to know the truth. Diane stood up, arms crossed. So she's turned you against us. Wonderful. No, your actions did that, Dad replied. Tatum has filed a police report about the assault. She has witnesses who saw the mark on her face. You're choosing her over your own family? Diane's voice rose. Tatum is my family, Dad said firmly, and I've failed to protect her. What happens now? Melanie asked, suddenly looking very young. Tatum will be staying with her mother until we sort this out, Dad explained. And Diane will be required to attend anger management classes as part of the agreement with the police. This is insane, Diane exploded. All over a slap and some teenage drama? It's about a pattern of behavior, I said quietly. And it stops now. 3 weeks later, I returned to pack the rest of my belongings. Mom had flown back immediately after Dad called her, and I'd been staying at our old house while she made arrangements to take me back to Chicago. Need any help? Dad asked from my doorway. I'm almost done, I replied, folding the last of my sweaters. Mom's waiting downstairs. Tatum, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I should have seen what was happening. You saw what you wanted to see, I said, not unkindly. A happy blended family. Diane's starting those classes next week, he offered, and she and Melanie are seeing a family therapist. That's good, I nodded, but it doesn't change my decision. A soft knock interrupted us. Melanie stood in the hallway, looking uncertain. Can I talk to you? She asked. Alone? Dad squeezed my shoulder and left us. I gestured for Melanie to come in, but kept packing. Jason and I broke up, she said finally. For real this time. I heard, I replied. Eric told Leah. Melanie winced. Yeah, well, turns out you weren't the only regret he had. I zipped my suitcase. Did you need something specific? I wanted to say I'm sorry, she blurted. For everything. The dress, the rumors, taking your boyfriend. I studied her face, searching for sincerity. Why did you do it? Mom always said we had to stake our claim in this house, Melanie admitted. She was afraid you'd take Dad away from us. So you decided to take everything from me instead? I know it sounds awful. Melanie looked down. It was awful, but I was scared too. Then it just became normal. Normal to hurt someone who never did anything to you? You were so perfect, Melanie whispered. Dad adored you. Mom felt threatened, so I did too. I hefted my suitcase off the bed. I was a kid whose parents divorced, forced to live with strangers who resented me. That's not perfect. That's surviving. Can we start over? Melanie asked hesitantly. Maybe text sometimes? I paused at the door. I don't think so, Melanie. Some bridges can't be unburned. Tatum, please. Her voice cracked. I really am sorry. I believe you are, I said honestly. But being sorry doesn't erase consequences. I hope therapy helps you both. Downstairs, Mom was having a tense conversation with Diane in the kitchen. Never meant for it to escalate, Diane was saying. We can work this out without legal measures. The police report has been filed, Mom replied coolly. The court date is set for next month. You hit my daughter, Diane. It was one mistake, Diane protested. Are you really going to destroy our family over this? You did that yourself, Mom countered. And from what Robert tells me, it wasn't just one mistake. It was a campaign. I cleared my throat. I'm ready. Mom nodded, gathering her purse. Robert, we'll call when we're settled. Dad hugged me tightly. I'll come visit in a few weeks, okay? Tatum, Diane stepped forward. I hope someday you can forgive us. Maybe someday I'll understand why you did what you did, I replied. But forgiveness isn't on today's agenda. In the car, Mom squeezed my hand. You okay, sweetheart? I will be, I answered, watching the house shrink in the side mirror. Did you know some people think revenge means hurting others the way they hurt you? And what do you think? Mom asked. I think sometimes the best revenge is simply making sure they face the natural consequences of their actions, I replied. And then building a life where they can't hurt you anymore. Mom smiled. That sounds like wisdom rather than revenge. Maybe, I shrugged. But it feels pretty satisfying knowing Diane has a court date and mandatory counseling, and that everyone now sees exactly who she and Melanie really are. No more perfect facade. And Jason? Mom asked cautiously. I laughed. His biggest regret is dating two sisters who both now know exactly what kind of person he is. His reputation at school is toast. As we drove toward Chicago and my new beginning, I realized something important. I hadn't fought dirty or stooped to their level. I'd simply stood firm in my truth and let justice take its natural course. That's a kind of power no one can take away. Do you ever wonder how different life would be if you'd stayed silent instead of speaking up? I used to think keeping the peace was more important than my own peace. Not anymore. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't forgiveness. It's having the courage to say, this stops now.